What if I told you the key to healing that stubborn, nagging shoulder pain wasn't some powerful new drug, but something you've probably got in your kitchen pantry right now? Today, we're taking a deep dive into a major scientific review that looks at using simple sugar to help the body regenerate damaged tissue. It's a fascinating idea.
First things first, let's talk about the problem itself. You know the feeling. It's that deep, annoying ache in your shoulder that makes simple things, like reaching up to a high shelf, playing a sport, or even just carrying your groceries a really painful ordeal. You're not alone. Millions and millions of people deal with this every single year.
So just how common is this? Well, the research shows that up to 7.4% of the entire population has rotator cuff problems every year. That is a huge number of people, and it's one of the top reasons people end up with chronic, disabling pain that just won't go away.
Now, for a lot of folks who finally go to the doctor for this, the go-to treatment is often a corticosteroid injection, a steroid shot. But here's the thing researchers are starting to ask. Is that powerful anti-inflammatory shot really the best long-term answer?
Okay, so let's get into that. Because it turns out the standard approach can be a real double-edged sword. It's this classic balancing act, right? You're weighing that immediate relief against what's best for your body down the road.
And here is the fundamental trade-off. A steroid shot? Yeah, it's amazing at shutting off the pain alarm for a little while. But some studies are suggesting it might actually weaken the tendon tissue over time, and that could, potentially, increase your risk of a much more serious tear later on.
And that's what brings us to a completely different strategy. I mean, a whole new way of thinking about it. An approach that doesn't just try to mask the pain by crushing inflammation, but one that actually tries to rebuild the damaged tissue from the inside out.
It's called dextrose Prolo therapy. And yeah, it sounds a little strange, but the basic idea is to inject a concentrated solution of sugar water, dextrose, right where the injury is. The goal? To basically fire up your body's own internal repair crew and tell them to get to work.
Now this is where it gets really interesting, because this is the exact opposite of a steroid shot. Instead of getting rid of inflammation, Prolo therapy intentionally creates a tiny controlled amount of it. It's like sending up a flare that signals your body to kick off its natural three-step healing process. First inflammation, then proliferation, and finally regeneration, where your body actually builds new, stronger tissue.
So that all sounds great in theory, but does it actually work in the real world? Let's take a look at what happens when scientists really put this regenerative idea to the test.
Researchers recently put out what's called a systematic review and meta-analysis. You can just think of it as a super study. They went out and gathered all the best research they could find, in this case, 13 different trials with over 900 patients, and then they mashed all that data together to get the clearest, most powerful conclusion possible.
And they were super picky about quality, which is exactly what you want to see. They didn't just throw every study into the pot. As you can see here, they graded each one for potential bias. And for their final analysis, they only used the 7 trials that were graded low risk. That way, you know their conclusions are built on a rock-solid foundation of good data.
All right, find a number 1. This was a clear win for Prolo therapy, at least in the short term. When they pooled all that high-quality data, they found that patients who got the dextrose injections had a statistically significant drop in their pain levels after just 1 month.
And this is the data right here. Now, don't let this chart, called a forest plot, intimidate you. All you really need to see is that little diamond shape at the very bottom. Because it lands completely to the left of that middle line, it means the combined result statistically favors dextrose for pain relief, a clear result at that 1-month mark.
But, and this is a really, really important but, when they checked back in with the patients at the 3-month follow-up, that clear advantage was gone. The pain levels in the prolotherapy group just weren't significantly different from the other treatments anymore.
Okay, on to the second big finding. And this one was pretty much a carbon copy of the first, but this time it was all about function. You know, what patients could actually do with their shoulder. And they found a real, meaningful improvement in shoulder function, again, right at that 1-month mark.
And here we go, another forest plot showing just that. They measured function with a standard survey, and a lower score is better. It means better function, less disability. And just like we saw with pain, that diamond at the bottom for the 1-month data is sitting firmly on the side that favors dextrose.
But, yep, you guessed it. Just like with the pain results, when the researchers checked back in at 3 months, that significant advantage in function had pretty much faded away. This pattern really suggests that the main measurable benefit of this treatment happens in that early short-term window.
Okay, finding number 3. And this one is a big deal for anyone considering any medical procedure, safety. And on that front, the news was great. Across all of the top-tier studies they looked at, there were no major adverse effects reported. So that tells us it's a very low-risk treatment.
So, let's put all the pieces together. We've seen the short-term wins, the long-term questions, and the safety profile. What's the final verdict? What should we actually take away from all this? So when you boil it all down, here's the picture you get. Dextrose Prolo therapy looks like a safe and effective option for helping with pain and function in the short term. That's great, but the evidence that it has a long-term advantage just isn't there yet. The researchers themselves actually grade the overall quality of the evidence as low, which is basically a call to action for other scientists to do more and better research to confirm these promising early results.
You know, the authors of the review really summed it up perfectly themselves. They don't frame this as some kind of miracle cure. Instead, they see it as a potentially valuable tool to add to the toolbox, especially for those patients who are kind of stuck, the ones who haven't gotten better with the usual stuff like physical therapy.
And all of this leaves us with a much bigger and, honestly, a more exciting question. This kind of research is part of a huge shift happening in medicine, a move away from just blocking pain signals and a move towards figuring out how to unlock our body's own incredible built-in ability to heal itself. So the question for the future is, where does this go from here? How far can this approach really take us?